Weak minds complain. Strong minds create. You don't need more motivation. You need mental laws that govern your thinking like a compass governs a ship. Today, I'm not here to inspire your emotions. I'm here to upgrade your mind. Because if you can't control your mind, your destiny will be hijacked by fear, confusion, and noise. The strongest people aren't those with muscles or money. The strongest people are those with mental clarity, purpose, and unshakable principles. Let me take you through the 7 laws of philosophy that will build the fortress of your mind, sharpen your clarity, and position you for unstoppable success. Law of inner control. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that controls your thoughts? Is it the buzz of notifications, the weight of yesterday's pain, or the fear of tomorrow's uncertainty? Most people don't realize this. Your mind is the first battlefield, and if you don't win there, you lose everywhere else. The law of inner control is the unshakable truth that you cannot afford to live another day letting outside forces dictate your internal atmosphere. A mentally strong person knows one thing. Peace is not a product of a quiet environment. It's a product of a governed mind. It's not about how loud the world is. It's about how still your thoughts are in the midst of the noise. You could be in a chaotic house, a stressful job, a difficult relationship, but still have control if your mind is rooted. Think about it. You walk in a room and someone says something offensive. Most people instantly react. They raise their voice. They feel small. They feel angry. But a mentally strong individual doesn't respond to the emotion of the moment. They respond to the clarity of their values. Because they know, if you control me emotionally, you control my direction. Every time you get offended by someone's words, you just handed them the keys to your peace. Every time you let the traffic jam, the gossip, the delay, or the rejection steal your joy, you're saying, here, take my mind and do with it what you want. That's weakness disguised as normalcy. And most people think it's okay because everyone does it. But greatness is never built on what everyone does. It's built on what few are willing to master: inner control. There was a man who worked at a high-pressure sales job. Every day his boss criticized him. Every day his clients rejected his pitch. And every evening he came home bitter, stressed, and silent. His wife noticed. His children felt the absence of his presence. And then one day everything changed, not because his job got easier, but because he made a decision. I will no longer let the outer world control my inner world. He started journaling his thoughts, praying before entering the building, repeating this phrase in the car: I command my peace. I rule my mind. I own my energy. And that small act of reclaiming his focus became the doorway to his promotion. Why? Because when he stopped reacting emotionally, he started performing strategically. And people noticed. You see, your mind is not a sponge to soak up every mood, opinion, and headline. Your mind is a filter, and filters only work when they're intentional. Stop letting every negative situation get inside your system. People will always talk. Traffic will always move slow. Seasons will change. But your mind must become your anchor. The truth is, most people are not tired because of what they're doing. They're tired because of what they're carrying mentally. Carrying resentment, carrying comparison, carrying fear. But you were never designed to be a dumping ground for toxic thoughts. You were designed to be a powerhouse of vision, strategy, creativity, and peace. But here's the catch. You have to guard your gates. Your ears are gates. Your eyes are gates. Your conversations are gates. If the wrong energy gets through those gates, it multiplies inside your mind like a virus. That's why mentally strong people are extremely picky about who they talk to, what they watch, and how they respond. They don't go around correcting every critic. They don't attend every argument they're invited to. They don't validate every lie spoken over them. Why? Because their peace is too expensive to be gambled with petty reactions. Let me give you a real example. A woman once told me that every time she visited her family, she left feeling worthless. They mocked her business. They questioned her dreams. They reminded her of her failures. But she kept going back, hoping one day they would validate her. I told her this: when you crave validation from people who reject your growth, you're giving your mind away in pieces. She paused, tears in her eyes, and said, then what do I do? I said, take back your power, rebuild your mind. Stop asking broken people to approve your healing. And that's the power of the law of inner control. You don't have to cut everyone off, but you do have to set the thermostat of your mind so high that the coldness of others can't freeze your progress. You decide what thoughts take root. You decide what words echo. You decide what energy enters. Life is unpredictable. People are inconsistent. Circumstances change. But your internal climate, your thoughts, your values, your principles must be solid, because storms will come. But it's not the storm that drowns people. It's the leak inside the boat. The law of inner control reminds us daily, if I can control my mind, I can control my life. Law of intentional thinking. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who's really doing the thinking in my life? Because whether you realize it or not, most people don't think. They react. They don't plan. They drift. They don't decide. They follow. And that's the danger of living without the law of intentional thinking. Let me be clear, the mind left on autopilot becomes a prison. And the walls aren't built by society, they're built by your own untrained thoughts. When your thinking is not intentional, it's vulnerable. It becomes a playground for anxiety, a warehouse for fear, and a theater for past pain to replay itself like a loop. We've been taught how to feel, but not how to think. We've been told to chase success, but not how to build the mindset that sustains it. And that's why people win in one season, but collapse in the next. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your thinking. You see, intentional thinking isn't something you do once in a while. It's not a weekend habit, it's a lifestyle. It's the decision to sit your mind down every day and give it instructions before the world does. Because if you don't program your mind, the world will program it for you. And trust me, it won't be in your favor. Let me give you a raw example. A young man once told me, every time I open social media, I feel like a failure. I asked him, why do you keep going back to what makes you feel unworthy? He said, because I don't know how to stop. And that right there was the root. He wasn't thinking intentionally, he was thinking emotionally. When you think emotionally, you chase validation. When you think intentionally, you chase growth. Emotional thinkers ask, do they like me? Intentional thinkers ask, am I becoming better? There's a difference between thought and reaction. Thought is a deliberate act of creation. Reaction is a passive response to external pressure. Which one are you living by? You wake up in the morning and the first thought that hits you is, I'm tired. I don't feel like doing anything today. And just like that, the rest of your day bends to that one untrained, unchallenged thought. But intentional thinkers don't allow every emotion to become truth. They challenge it. They say, no, I command this day. I will show up with energy, discipline, and clarity because my feelings are followers, not leaders. You've got to become the architect of your own mental structure. Intentional thinking is when you build a framework in your mind that filters every thought through purpose, not popularity, not pressure, not past pain, but purpose. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The emotional mind wants to yell. The intentional mind asks, is this worth my energy? You see someone living the life you desire. The emotional mind gets jealous. The intentional mind says, that's proof it's possible for me too. You get rejected from an opportunity. The emotional mind says, I'm not good enough. But the intentional mind whispers, not yet, but I will be. This is not about being fake. This is not about pretending. This is about reprogramming your mind to respond in alignment with your future, not your feelings. I once met a woman who had lost everything. Her business collapsed, her marriage ended, her health was declining, and when I asked her how she kept going, she said something I'll never forget. I made a rule for my mind. Every morning I give it 3 orders. Be grateful, stay disciplined, keep dreaming. That's intentional thinking. That's mental power. That's how people rise from ashes with fire in their eyes. Intentional thinkers don't let the day tell them who they are. They tell the day who they are. They don't let failure define them. They define failure. They don't let setbacks create stories of defeat. They use setbacks as scripts for their comeback. And here's the kicker. Intentional thinking is a skill, not a gift. You don't have to be born with it. You train it like a muscle. You catch your thoughts when they wander and you redirect them. You sit in silence, not to escape the world, but to confront your mind. You read books, not to look smart, but to upgrade your internal dialogue. You journal your thoughts, not because it's trendy, but because you refuse to let your mind become a storage unit for confusion. One man wakes up and says, life is hard. Another wakes up and says, today I get to build my vision. Both live in the same world, but one will rise and the other will sink, not because of luck, but because of thought. Let me ask you this. What thoughts are you rehearsing daily? What stories are you silently believing? Are they pulling you closer to who you're becoming or chaining you to who you used to be? The mind is the soil. Thoughts are the seeds. If you want a harvest of peace, clarity, creativity, and resilience, you've got to plant intentionally, water consistently, and weed out everything that doesn't serve your destiny. Because the greatest transformation does not happen in your environment. It happens in your mind. Law of identity clarity. There's a powerful moment in life when you stop asking, who likes me? And start asking, who am I really? That moment is when the law of identity clarity begins to unlock your mental strength. See, most people live their entire lives wearing masks they don't even know they're wearing, masks shaped by other people's expectations, society's labels, childhood wounds, and comparison. And the tragedy is not that they fail. The tragedy is they succeed at becoming someone they were never meant to be. The most dangerous crisis in life is not a financial one. It's not a relationship breakup. It's not even physical illness. The greatest crisis is a crisis of identity. When you don't know who you are, you don't know what to say no to, you don't know what to fight for, you don't know what to protect. That's why people break under pressure. That's why they chase approval. That's why they tolerate disrespect. because you can't fight for what you haven't defined. Let me break this down with a story. A young man I once mentored had raw talent. He could speak, he could write, he had ideas that could shake a room. But every time he stepped up, he hesitated. Every time he's about to speak his truth, he watered it down. I asked him, "Why are you shrinking?" He said, "Because I don't want to be judged." And I told him, that fear is not coming from who you are, it's coming from who you think you have to be. You see, when your identity is unclear, your confidence will always be unstable. You'll look to the crowd for permission. You'll wait for applause before you take action. You'll keep trying to fit in rooms where you were supposed to stand out. That's the deception of a borrowed identity. It convinces you that safety is more important than purpose. Let me tell you something life-changing. You were not born to be accepted. You were born to be authentic. And sometimes authenticity is expensive. It costs you followers. It costs you popularity. It may even cost you relationships. But what you lose in comfort, you gain in power. Real power, not power over people, but power over your own choices, your own voice, and your own future. Identity clarity means you know your values before the opportunity arrives. You don't need to see how it feels. You already decided who you are. If someone offers you fast money, but it violates your character, you walk away. If a relationship offers comfort, but compromises your peace, you leave. Because when you know your identity, you stop chasing people and you start attracting alignment. People with identity clarity are not perfect. They are anchored. They may get tempted, but they don't stay confused. They may face storms, but they don't forget their direction. And that's the kind of mind you must build if you want to survive in a world that profits off your confusion. Think about how much of your daily stress comes from trying to be something you're not. Think about how exhausting it is to filter your truth just to please people who aren't even in your corner. That's the cost of identity confusion. It drains your energy. It blocks your creativity. It delays your destiny. There was a woman who told me, "I've spent my whole life being who my parents wanted. I went to the school they picked. I dated the man they liked. I took the job they approved of. And now I'm 35 and I don't even know what I want." I looked her in the eyes and said, the moment you start living as who you are is the moment your real life begins. Identity clarity is not about being arrogant. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about being rooted so deeply in your design that you don't collapse every time someone misunderstands you. You no longer need to explain yourself to everyone. You no longer feel the urge to adjust your truth to match someone else's comfort. You become unapologetic, not rude, not loud, but sure. When you operate from a clear identity, rejection doesn't break you. It reveals who's not aligned with your assignment. When you operate from a clear identity, failure doesn't define you. It refines you. Because your worth was never based on what you achieved, but on who you were becoming all along. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another self-help trend. You need to sit with yourself and ask, who am I beneath the noise? Strip away the titles, strip away the roles, strip away the applause. When it's just you and the silence, who are you? If you can answer that, then nothing can stop you. Because the most powerful force on earth is not a genius mind, it's a clear identity. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your clarity is your compass. Your clarity is your calm. And the world makes room for the person who walks in clarity like a fire through the fog. Law of pain, perspective pain is not your enemy, it's your instructor. But the problem is, most people run from pain like it's a plague, when in reality, it's a professor. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is not the amount of pain they experience, it's the perspective they apply to that pain. You see, life never promised ease, it promised evolution. And evolution only happens when pressure meets purpose. I've watched people collapse under what should have made them stronger, not because the pain was too great, but because their interpretation was too small. Pain without purpose leads to bitterness, but pain with perspective leads to breakthrough. Let me ask you, when you're in a season of struggle, do you ask, why me? Or do you ask, what is this shaping in me? Because those two questions produce two very different futures. Imagine this, you're walking through a dark season. Your business failed. Your relationship fell apart. You've been betrayed by people you trusted. Most people would say, I must be cursed. Nothing good ever happens to me. But a person with pain perspective says, this is the fire that forges my next level. This didn't come to destroy me. It came to develop me. You see, you don't just go through pain. You grow through pain. But only if you stop treating it like a punishment. Pain is feedback. Pain is a divine interruption to wake you up. Pain shows you what's no longer aligned. It reveals what you need to release, and it teaches you what comfort could never show you. Growth and comfort are enemies. If you want to grow, you must embrace the discomfort that stretches you beyond who you were. There's a man I know who lost his job overnight. 15 years of commitment gone in a 5-minute conversation. He told me, I felt like I was drowning in confusion. I questioned my worth, my value, even my identity. But then he said something that shifted everything. One morning, I heard a voice in me say, this is not the end, it's an exit. Not from purpose, but from limitation. That's pain perspective. He didn't see the loss as punishment. He saw it as redirection. Let me be real with you. You can either bleed with purpose or bleed in vain. That's the power of how you frame your pain. Pain will either imprison you or provoke you. It will either make you bitter or build you better. The difference is not in the pain, it's in the meaning you give it. Some of the strongest people you admire today didn't get there because life was gentle with them. They got there because when life punched them in the mouth, they stood up with swollen lips and whispered, "This will not break me. This will make me bold." Their pain didn't disqualify them, it qualified them. And that same power is in you. Let me tell you, the gym of life does not build strength with comfort. It builds strength with resistance. Every tear you cried that no one saw was lifting your emotional endurance. Every rejection that made you question your worth was pressing into your capacity. Every lonely night was a classroom, not a punishment. Pain is God's megaphone when the whispers of purpose have been ignored for too long. One woman I spoke with had gone through a devastating divorce. She told me, "I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe some mornings." But I asked her, "What is this pain revealing?" And she said, "I learned I had placed my identity in a person, not in my purpose. I learned how much I abandoned myself trying to keep someone else comfortable." That's pain perspective. She didn't let the pain steal her identity. She let it restore it. Let me break it down even more. Pain invites you to self-reflection. It exposes your boundaries. It shows you what no longer fits. It confronts your illusions. It demands a new version of you. And until you stop viewing pain as a problem and start seeing it as preparation, you will mislabel every struggle and sabotage your own healing. You want mental strength. Then you've got to change your relationship with pain. Stop waiting for it to disappear. Start learning what it's trying to deliver, because the truth is you cannot conquer what you will not confront. And pain is always showing up with one mission: to confront your complacency. I want you to picture your future self 5 years from now. What do they look like? What have they built? How do they walk into a room? Now realize this: the version of you you're dreaming about is on the other side of the pain you're currently avoiding. But when you go through it with perspective, you don't just survive, you evolve. Pain doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're being sharpened. Just like a blade must face friction to gain its edge, so must you. And the more pain you survive with perspective, the more unstoppable you become. Not because you're fearless, but because now pain doesn't scare you. It instructs you. It informs you. It elevates you. You have to learn how to bleed and build at the same time. Cry if you must, but don't quit. Feel the pressure, but don't fold. Ask the hard questions, but don't curse the process. Because what's crushing you right now is cultivating a version of you that's required for the next level. Law of thought management: your mind is a battlefield. Every day you wake up, there is a war happening inside you, a war between discipline and distraction, between faith and fear, between clarity and confusion. The law of thought management is not just a cute principle for books and conferences. It's the survival skill of champions. Because if you don't master your mind will master you. And that right there is the silent killer of destiny. Your thoughts are architects. They build your emotional house. They determine what kind of atmosphere you live in, whether peace or panic, courage or chaos. And here's the twist: your external life will always begin to reflect the internal conversations you're having. If you think small, you move small. If you think defeated, you speak defeated. If you think chaotic, your life starts looking like a storm even on calm days. It's not the environment, it's the engine inside your skull. Let me give you a real life example. There was a man who had all the talent in the world. People saw his potential and said, "You're going to do great things." But he never took action. Why? Because every time he stood in front of opportunity, his mind whispered, "You're not ready. What if you fail? What if you look stupid?" That voice wasn't coming from the outside. It was coming from the thoughts he never challenged. He thought they were facts, but they were just fears in disguise. You cannot afford to let your mind run wild. You have to arrest rogue thoughts like they are trespassers, because they are. Every time a thought enters your mind that tells you you're not enough, you must respond like a warrior, not a victim. You have to say, "That thought is not mine. It doesn't serve my future. It doesn't serve my identity. And it doesn't belong here." Because if you don't evict lies, they will take up residence in your reality. This is where most people get stuck. They think that because they feel something, it must be true. But feelings are followers. They follow focus. And focus is chosen by thought. If you feed a thought long enough, it will grow into a belief, and beliefs control behavior. This is why someone can be talented, gifted, even favored, but stuck in cycles. Because they never renewed the way they think. It's not just about positive thinking. That's surface level. It's about strategic thinking. It's about interrupting your patterns of sabotage. It's about training your brain like an athlete trains for competition. You don't just wish for better thoughts, you work on them daily. Thought management is not magic, it's muscle. A young woman once told me, I always sabotage good relationships. The moment someone treats me right, I push them away. I asked her why, and she said, I guess I never believed I deserved love that didn't hurt. That belief came from years of unmanaged thoughts. Silent whispers that said, you're too damaged to be chosen. You're too broken to be safe. And because she never questioned those thoughts, they built a system in her mind, a system that kept her from receiving what was healthy. That's the cost of ignoring this law. Your thoughts have roots, and those roots feed every area of your life. If your roots are toxic, your relationships will be unstable. If your roots are fearful, your risks will always be minimal. If your roots are shame-based, you'll keep dimming your light just to survive in dark places. But if your thoughts are disciplined, your life becomes intentional. If your thoughts are wise, your decisions reflect power. And if your thoughts are renewed, your life begins to align with the future you're called to. Let me challenge you with something practical. Take inventory of your thoughts. Just like you check your bank account, check your mental deposits. What have you been investing into your thought life? Are you spending more time imagining worst-case scenarios than you are visualizing victory? Are you rehearsing past pain more than you're declaring future power? Because your mind is a garden, and you will always harvest what you habitually plant. The mind doesn't care if the thought is true or false. It will grow whatever you water. So if you keep feeding it fear, don't be shocked when anxiety takes over. If you keep feeding it doubt, don't be surprised when hesitation hijacks every opportunity. But if you start feeding it discipline, watch your habits shift. If you feed it vision, watch your environment start aligning. If you feed it truth, watch your confidence grow roots that can't be shaken. There's a man who used to wake up every morning, stare in the mirror, and say, I'm not good enough. It became his routine, until one day he stopped mid-sentence and asked, who told me that? That question cracked open a cage that had kept him mentally imprisoned for years. He realized he had inherited thoughts that were never his truth. And when he started replacing them, his decisions, relationships, and business all began to shift. Because he wasn't thinking from pain anymore. He was thinking from power. This is what I want for you, to think from power. To move from clarity, to live from conviction, not confusion. The law of thought management is not about perfection. It's about ownership. Own your mind or it will own you. Speak to it. Discipline it. Rewire it. Because your life is proof of what your thoughts have been rehearsing. If you want a new reality, you must master a new mentality. Law of delayed reaction. We live in a culture of speed, fast food, instant messages, next day delivery. Society has programmed people to believe that if it doesn't happen now, it's not working. But the truth is, the most powerful movements in your life often begin in silence and manifest in delay. That's the law of delayed reaction. Just because you don't see the result immediately doesn't mean the process isn't working. Delay does not mean denied. It means deepened. It means developed. It means something stronger is being built under the surface before it breaks through. Imagine a seed planted in the soil. You water it. You nurture it. You stand over it with expectation. But days pass and nothing seems to happen. If you don't understand the law of delayed reaction, you'll give up on that seed. You'll assume it's dead. You'll walk away before the breakthrough. But in truth, under that soil, the seed is fighting, breaking, rooting, anchoring itself in the dark. The delay is not a sign of death. It's a sign of deeper preparation. That's how your dreams work. That's how your transformation works. You may be praying, working, building, growing, but it looks like nothing's moving. People around you might not see your effort. They may even say, you're still trying that, but they don't see the roots growing. They don't hear the private battles you're overcoming. The world respects fruit, but it rarely honors roots. And that's why you must believe in your process, even when no applause shows up to validate you. There's a story of a man who spent years building his business. Every day he woke up early, strategized, made calls, sacrificed his weekends while his friends were partying. But after 5 years, he still hadn't made it by public standards. He began to doubt himself. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm wasting my time. But one day, a single client discovered his work, and from that one connection, his business exploded. What looked like an overnight success was actually a 5-year delay. But those 5 years weren't wasted. They were sacred. They were the furnace of character. They were the pressure that made sure he would be ready for what was coming. See, without delay, you become fragile. If everything came instantly, your foundation would be too shallow to sustain the blessing. The delay stretches your patience. It expands your endurance. It reveals your motives. Because anything gained too soon can become your downfall. That's why the law of delayed reaction exists, to protect you from success you're not yet ready to carry. But here's the dangerous trap. Most people equate delay with rejection. And so they self-sabotage. They say things like, it's taking too long. I must be doing something wrong. No. You might be doing everything right. It's just not harvest season yet. You don't dig up seeds just because fruit hasn't shown. You don't quit the gym just because abs didn't show up in the first week. You don't walk away from your calling just because your first steps felt clumsy. The delay is a divine filter. It filters out the faint-hearted and makes room for the relentless. A young woman once told me, "I've been healing, journaling, doing therapy for 2 years, and yet I still have days when I feel broken. Shouldn't I be done by now?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Progress is not measured by speed, it's measured by depth. Just because it takes time doesn't mean you're behind. You're being rebuilt layer by layer, lesson by lesson. If healing were instant, it wouldn't be complete. Sometimes your transformation is slow on purpose because quick fixes don't create lasting change. Think about the bamboo tree. For 5 years, nothing breaks the surface. You water it, you feed it, you see no results. But in the 5th year, it grows over 90 feet in 6 weeks. Did it grow in 6 weeks? No, it grew for 5 years underground, and when the timing was right, it manifested. That's delayed reaction. That's what your dreams are doing. That's what your character is doing. Stop judging your journey by what's visible. Some of your greatest breakthroughs are still growing in silence. And yes, there will be days when you want to quit, days when it feels like your prayers hit the ceiling, but days when your efforts seem pointless. But this is where mental strength is built, not in the results, but in the resilience. Can you stay focused without recognition? Can you stay faithful without feedback? Can you keep watering the vision when it looks like the soil is silent? The most dangerous thing about delayed reaction is the temptation to chase distractions. Because when it feels like your dream isn't working, the counterfeit looks attractive. But don't be fooled. Shortcuts have short lives, and easy routes often lead to empty results. You've got to believe that what you're building in the dark will shine when it's time. The longer the delay, the deeper the impact. You're not stuck. You're being strengthened. You're not behind. You're being built. You're not forgotten. You're being fortified. Stop cursing the delay. Start studying it. What is it teaching you about consistency? What is it showing you about trust? Because when you understand the law of delayed reaction, you won't be shaken by the silence. You'll stand in it knowing that every second is sacred. Every moment is molding something strong in you. Law of long-term vision, the reason most people never rise above average is not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, it's because they lack long-term vision. In a world driven by instant gratification, fast likes, and viral trends, those who can see beyond the moment are becoming increasingly rare. But let me tell you something powerful. Vision is the blueprint of the future. If you don't see it, you won't seize it. You won't seize it. Long-term vision is the law that separates us from followers, champions from quitters, and legacy builders from trend chasers. You've got to stop living for applause and start living for alignment. When you have long-term vision, you don't make decisions based on your mood. You make them based on your mission. You don't ask, "How do I feel today?" You ask, "What do I need to build today?" Because vision gives your pain a purpose. It gives your discipline a direction. You begin to understand that what you do daily is connected to what you want ultimately. And that changes everything. Think of the athlete who trains at 5 a.m. while the world sleeps. Think of the student who chooses to study instead of scroll. Think of the entrepreneur who reinvests profits instead of spending for status. What's the difference? Vision. People with long-term vision don't trade purpose for popularity. They understand that true growth isn't sexy, it's silent. It's in the repetition, it's in saying no to now so you can say yes to what's coming. But here's where most people break. They get discouraged when results don't come fast enough. They quit because they confuse slow progress with failure. That's what happens when you have no vision. You only see what's in front of you, not what's ahead of you. You live like a thermostat, constantly reacting to your environment instead of like a compass, guiding your life by where you're going. You become driven by emotions, not principles. And emotions are unstable. They're temporary. You can't build a meaningful future on momentary feelings. That's why you must have a long-term lens. Let me be honest with you, long-term vision will cost you. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you some friendships. It will cost you ease, convenience, and sometimes even your own ego. But what it gives you in return is clarity. It gives you purpose. It gives you power over distractions. When you have vision, you're not easily swayed. You can look at a temporary failure and still believe in the eventual victory. You don't chase attention, you chase alignment. You don't ask for approval, you ask for wisdom. You understand that the decisions you make today are shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. There's a young woman who had a dream to be a doctor. Her family didn't understand her. Her friends mocked her sacrifices. She worked night shifts just to pay for her books, studied while commuting, failed exams, and still kept showing up. 10 years later, she's not only a doctor, she's mentoring others. Why? Because she saw beyond the now. She saw herself in the future and refused to betray that version of herself. That's the power of vision. You don't let your circumstances define you. You let your calling refine you. One of the biggest lies you'll ever hear is, live for the moment. No live for the mission. Moments come and go. Pleasure is temporary, but purpose is eternal. If you live for the moment, you'll settle for shortcuts, you'll fall for flattery, and you'll miss the process that shapes you. But when you live for the mission, you're okay being misunderstood now to be honored later. You're okay saying not yet when everyone else says right now. You're okay staying focused while the crowd is distracted. Vision will also test your patience. You'll have days when the progress is invisible, days when you feel like nothing is working. But the law of long-term vision reminds you that results are not always immediate. They are cumulative, like compound interest. Growth adds up slowly, then multiplies. The work you put in today might not pay off tomorrow, but it is never wasted. Every disciplined decision is a deposit into your destiny. Long-term vision is not about predicting the future. It's about preparing for it. It's about knowing who you want to become and aligning every step, every choice, every day to match that image. It's about doing what's necessary now, even if it's uncomfortable, so you can live with excellence later. It's about saying, I see something greater than where I am, and I refuse to lower my standard to match my struggle. If your life feels scattered, it's because your vision isn't clear. If you're always starting over, it's because you're not anchored in where you're going. When you lack vision, you'll chase whatever's shiny. But when you're filled with vision, you're not impressed by trends. You're committed to truth. You don't move based on what's popular. You move based on what's purposeful. Ask yourself, what does the highest version of me look like 10 years from now? What does their health, their mindset, their finances, their relationships look like? Then ask, what am I doing today to become that person? That is the foundation of long-term vision. You begin to live in such a way that every small step aligns with your greater goal. You don't waste time arguing with people who don't see it. You don't spend energy proving yourself to critics. You're too focused. You're too intentional. You're too disciplined to be distracted. People might call you crazy. Let them. People might call you boring. That's fine. You weren't born to entertain. You were born to build. And builders understand something most people don't. The foundation takes the longest, but it's what makes the structure unshakable. When others look for moments to shine, you look for moments to align. Because you know, without a vision, people perish, but with it they rise. So here we are, standing at the crossroads of mediocrity and mastery, and the only thing that separates the two is vision. Not talent, not connections, not background, vision. The power to see what others can't, the discipline to stay with it when others quit, and the wisdom to protect it when distractions come knocking. The world doesn't reward noise, it rewards focus. It doesn't elevate the loudest, it elevates the clearest, and clarity comes from vision. If your vision is clear, your decisions will be sharp. If your mission is defined, your momentum will be divine. Don't you dare let today's pain cancel tomorrow's promise. Don't you dare let your temporary season convince you that this is your permanent story. You've got to remember, a diamond doesn't come out of convenience. It's made in pressure, in heat, in time. That's what long-term vision does. It transforms your struggle into strategy, your trials into tools, and your wounds into wisdom. People who carry vision walk differently. They speak differently. They love differently. They know that the journey may be long, but the reward is worth it. They understand that someday is not a myth. It's a promise to those who don't give up. You don't have to explain your vision to people who've chosen to remain blind. Some people won't understand your grind because they've never seen your glory. And that's okay. Vision is personal. It's sacred. It's a fire you carry within. If you spend all your time trying to prove it, you'll waste all your energy trying to explain it to people who were never called to see it in the first place. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is go quiet and build. Let the results speak. Let the legacy echo. Listen, storms will come. Delays will frustrate you. Life will test the very core of your belief, but you must keep your eyes on the horizon. When it rains, you don't curse the clouds, you thank the soil, because vision isn't just about what you see, it's about how you interpret what you see. Every storm, every setback, every silence is part of your preparation. The deeper your roots, the greater your reach. So dig deep, hold your ground, and trust that every season is working for your good. You were not born to repeat cycles. You were not created to wander in confusion. There is purpose on your name. There is legacy in your lungs. But it will only come to life when you activate vision. Not vague hope, not fleeting motivation, vision. The kind of clarity that makes you say no to comfort. The kind of clarity that gets you up at 4 a.m. The kind of clarity that helps you walk away from shortcuts. That's the kind of fire you need. Let the world say you're too focused. Let them call you obsessed. Obsession with vision is what built every empire, every invention, every breakthrough. You can't conquer what you compromise for. You can't lead where you're too afraid to stand out. And you cannot build legacy if you keep living for likes. Vision says, I'll pay now so I can reap later. Vision says, I don't need validation to move. Vision says, I see something greater than what they think about me. You must decide right now to become dangerous in discipline, ruthless in clarity, fearless in purpose. Stop renting your life to the opinions of others and start owning your future with intention. Walk like someone who knows where they're going. Talk like someone who's already seen the end. Because when you believe in your vision, you start carrying yourself like it's already done, and the world responds to people who move like destiny is non-negotiable. And never forget this: vision is the architect, but discipline is the builder. Faith is the fuel, but consistency is the engine. You don't need all the answers. You just need relentless alignment. Every single day, remind yourself, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. Progress is power. Movement is momentum. Keep going, keep building, because one day, what you're sacrificing for in secret will be celebrated in public. One day, the tears, the late nights, the rejections, the prayers, they'll all make sense. So rise up, think long, walk strong, speak life, and never stop chasing the version of you that only your vision can see. Because once you catch that version, the world will never be the same again.